All right. So yeah, we're good on recording now. Okay. Now let's go ahead and get started. Well, everyone, I want to thank you for joining us today. This is basically the second session of what we started last week, and we're going to continue looking at style books and expand on kind of what we learned in that first session where we covered just the basics. And now we're going to look at how we go about, like, basically removing our need for maintaining a theme. And especially this is within the context of upgrading to 7.4. I feel like it's really possible that you can do this now. Liferay 7.4 has a lot of new features and capabilities that kind of really make this something that we can do fairly easily. Like I said, we are going to record these after the session. I will send out the meetup email basically to everyone who signed up, and I'll go ahead and share the immediate recording link to the recording. And I'll also have a survey in there that I really appreciate if you can fill out. It's really short, but it just basically helps myself and also my colleague Andrew Jardine kind of justify to our supervisors how beneficial these sessions are to you, because this is really what the goal is. And it also gives you a way to provide feedback and let me know, or let us know, what are some new topics that you would like to see us kind of work up, do a session on. We'll have plenty of time at the end to ask questions. If you want to go ahead and use the Q&A chat box, go ahead and make use of that. But then at the end, I'll unmute everyone, or if you want to ask a question out loud, I'll unmute you, and we can just have a kind of an informal dialogue. But with that said, let's go ahead and get started. So our session today is Style Books 201, No More Themes. And our objective today is to understand the benefits of style books when upgrading, and how maintaining a theme can now be a thing of the past. So here's a little bit about the session breakdown. We're going to just do a real quick recap of the strategies that we looked at in the first session for site design and page management. We're going to look at the options for theme upgrades or upgrading a theme. And then we're going to look at what that approach would be like using style books. And then we're going to look at using style books and master pages to accomplish that. This is the standard toolkit that I'm using, basically. I have been in a couple of these sessions. And so diving straight in. So I had actually had 3 slides of this last time, and I showed you, if you remember, I showed the previous strategy that we had before, like 7.2 and before, was always when we wanted to look at the UI and the design for our site, we had basically our theme, we had a layout, the layout templates that we created, and then we had our widgets or custom portlets, right? And going forward, starting in 7.3, going forward, we had the theme, which then provided the style book tokens via that front-end token JSON file, that then the style book could then assign the values to, right? And then master pages was the equivalent, basically, to the layout templates. This was something that was before. This was a migration where we had to migrate that through the landscape and go through release management if we wanted to introduce a new layout, basically. Now we can do that within the context of the UI with master pages. So before we had our headers and footers and our comment elements, we're previously in the theme. Now we can use those in master pages, and we'll look at that shortly. We also 7.4 going forward, we had they introduced front-end client extensions, which allows us to be able to provide CSS and JavaScript assets to our site and via configuration. So previously, we would always provide that in the theme, but now we have a new decoupled method that we can provide that more easily. And you can provide that either on content pages or on widget pages. So this is the hybrid layout, because, and I said hybrid because, going in 7.3 and 7.4, really you have this this nice natural flow from, the theme for providing the tokens to style books, the master pages, to then, be able to use these on content pages within your fragments. But we still can actually use style books and master pages on a widget page. And so you can see I kind of have this dotted line right here because it is actually possible to use this. It doesn't have to be something that we're only able to use these two new features with our, with content pages. Most of us, if you've been with Liferay for a while, use the platform, you've probably already got an investment in widget pages. So it does make sense where, hey, maybe I need to use some widget pages. Maybe I don't want to convert everything over, but we have the flexibility. The point out of this is I just want you to know that it's not an all or an either or. You actually have the flexibility to use these new features with if you're still using widget pages. So what are my upgrade themes or my upgrade options? Well, obviously you can, just upgrade your theme, as you've done in previous versions. You can create a new theme, we kind of looked at a little bit about that last time, where, we were wanting to extend the tokens that were provided, for the classic theme, and that was really our only option. But if you also remember too, I said that there's actually a new feature that's coming up. It's not been released yet, where even if we wanted to extend the tokens that are available for our style book, we won't have to go back and create a new theme. There's a new way that's coming out later. So what we're going to look at today is, we could use style books. Liferay out of the box ships with, we looked at them last week, the classic and dialect theme. Dialect provides, numerous more tokens than what classic does. So this is obviously the way that we're going to look at, which is what we've seen several customers who, as they're upgrading to 7.4, they're able to basically do that, exactly that. They can retire the maintenance of their old theme and they can use a style book and master pages in place. So we're going to look at overview of option number 3. So the first thing we want to do is we want to identify any common elements that we have. We take this example that I've got right here. This is, some of you might recognize, this is the old Westeros kind of theme that Liferay provided back in 7.0, and then it provided it, I think it was in the marketplace for some of the other versions too. But at the top, we've got we've kind of got two headers. We've got one header that has a logo over here to the side. Actually, this one, the black one, the first header basically just has a username on the right-hand side. And then the second header, which you could maybe decide is 3 headers, 3 different levels. But the second one, provides a logo, a navigation, and a search bar. And then the second level after that provides the navigation. The reason why I kind of decided that this is really kind of one header with 2 parts, an A and a B, is because when you look at the responsive view, it kind of just works out more that way instead of having it as 3. But there's a lot of, you might have yours designed differently. And then if we look at basically the other common elements we have towards the, that we think of the footer, we have 2 levels of footers. One is a web content article that was on each page, this little links icon. And then we have, another kind of navigation footer that was at the bottom, and it was all right justified. If we go to, oops, I think I skipped too many. If we look at, like a responsive view, here are the same common elements. You can see we've got that same header 1 that's defined with the username. And then we've got the second level, basically, that provides the logo, navigation, and search. And then we can see how that same footer looks, the same footers look also in responsive view. So all of these, once we've kind of had these common elements kind of defined, then we can document those, take note of how we want to construct these, because what we're going to want to do is then turn these basically most probably into a fragment, and move them straight from our free marker template over. So the next thing we want to do is, after that, if we identified our common elements, is we want to document our configurations. So previously, like in a theme, we'd have different configuration options. So right here, like, show global menu on, show main search, show recursive menu on. There were several different options, and they had to be constructed in the XML. And then the admin could then, toggle these switches. Well, like we said, a lot of these can actually be changed to possibly, the different viewports that are allowed on a master page, because essentially a master page is nothing but a content page. And the content page editor allows you to set styling changes for the different viewports. So we'll look at this a little bit, but I can make certain styling changes for say when it's in a mobile view versus when it's in a desktop view. Additionally, there's also the options where it could be maybe something where we want to hide a specific fragment, maybe one of like the search right here. So maybe when it's on a mobile view, maybe we don't want to allow it on all the different screens. We only want to allow it maybe on the like a desktop view, like we'd have right here. You can provide that within the master page. Other theme configurations that we might have could be something similar to this. We have these social media icons for like Facebook. If we want to show that, what the link is, that would be a value. Well, something like the URL that would renders itself to readily be just a fragment, that we place at the bottom. And the content admin could just real easily just edit the URL, the value for that link, right? Another options would be, as far as like showing the actual fragment, maybe, or the social book, social icon, maybe that's going to be just toggling the fragment, whether or not it shows in that viewport. Maybe it's a different master page completely. There's just several different options that we have depending on what those theme configurations are. They just tend to lend themselves either to a fragment, either fragment configurations, or maybe even client extensions. Maybe you're going to include maybe font awesome on a page, and that was an attribute that you used to have a configuration for, or maybe you had some internal like analytics system that injected the JavaScript. There's just a lot of different other ways that you can go about doing and providing the features that you needed for a theme configuration. So just as a reminder, when we're looking at, hey, what might move from a template over to a fragment, and then how, in the end, the goal is to make use of these, the tokens, these CSS variables. So just remember that, we can use them in themes, widgets, and fragments. And in the themes and widgets, the CSS values are assigned either, hard coding, which is what, we've all probably done, or they can use the CSS variable. But in fragments, the nice thing about those is they can actually be assigned by selecting the value from a style book. For example, the button primary, you can choose, hey, I want that, I want my button to be whatever that color is, and you give the content admin, like what we looked at last time in the last session. So basically, the approach is going to be, create or use fragments for common elements. You might want to use some of the basic fragments that are shipped out of the box with Liferay, or you're going to kind of create your own new ones. And then you're going to consider any former theme configurations and where those might best now migrate to. You're going to create a master page or master pages, because maybe you've got some variations that you have. And then, we're going to create our style book, obviously. And then you can use multiple for, other kind of style variations that you might have. And then, like I said, just a minute ago, keep in mind the usage of the CSS variables and tokens as you're kind of making this transition. So let's go ahead and get started. So I've got basically the same desktop or environment that I had from last week, and kind of even showed this, I believe. What I did was took actually a 7.0 instance. I had spun it up and I installed and created a site, Westeros, Oregon, if you were those old ones. But we're going to work with Westeros. And then I ran the upgrade to 7.4. So basically what we have here is what a lot of us find if we've been on the platform for a long time. We're upgrading from maybe 7.1, 7.2, 7.0. And we've got a lot of investment in widget pages, and everything is basically structured content. And you can see right here, this is essentially what we get if we spin up that dev and that upgraded dev environment the first time we go look at it, right? It's going to look pretty basic, except it's just going to have our pretty much our content in there. But the styling needs has got a lot to be said for it. Go look at another page. But you can see there's a lot of the old styles, bootstrap styles or clay styles. They have not really changed over because the version changed. In this case, from 7.0 to 7.4, that was like 10 years, maybe 8 years of difference in the Liferay version, and we've updated the bootstrap version since then. So anyway, the first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and we're going to create our style book. So I'm going to go ahead and go to design. I'm going to go to style books, and actually had already started this, but select one. We'll just do another one. We'll call this one Westeros 2. I was playing around with this side earlier. And so we're going to go ahead and set some brand and theme colors, just really basic. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go back to my workspace. And I hope everyone can still see my screen. They should be able to. And let me know if you don't. I'm watching the Q&A window if you can't. I've got in my modules, I went ahead and I have the old 7.0 theme zipped up. And I want to just unzip this real quickly, because we want to make reference to the, looking at our old theme to kind of move our colors over. So actually this is a tar file, so let's do that. And this should refresh. And we'll go to source. We'll go to our CSS, partials, variables, and then colors. And your theme might be laid out and organized a little differently or so, but this is, in this example theme, it's kind of laid out in a nice methodical way, and hopefully yours is too. But I'm going to look in some of these colors. So the brand color 1, I'm going to go ahead and just grab this, and I'm going to go back to over here, and I'm going to paste this in. So that gives us that blue, kind of almost teal a little bit, that matches the logo that Westeros has. And then I'm going to go to brand color 2, and I'll pick that color up. And that gives us the other kind of highlight color that was used in there. So if I look at brand color 3, in my theme, in the Westeros theme, it's white. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. And then what I'm actually going to do is, now I'll mention one thing, like in the gray section, there is a white right here, so I could make use of that. But I've already got some themes that probably or some of the templates, display templates, that I've already made some changes to, kind of spoiler alert to save time. And I've already got them to where they'll just use the brand color 3. So I'm actually going to kind of cheat a little bit, and I'm just going to choose the white from here. And so that matches. And then brand color 4, I'm going to leave that. It's honestly, if I look at the brand color 4 right here, there's not really much difference, but I can move it over. But actually that one is different. I think that was because that was different. Oh, yeah, I'll leave that one then. Let's see, text darker, dark. I do want that one. I'm gonna leave this brand color 4 like that. I'll close these grays, and then we'll go with theme colors. And I'm going to change this dark just a little bit. And I'll change this lighter. But you get the idea, and you can make the decision as far as like, maybe classic works nice for you and the tokens, or maybe you will decide you might want to use dialect. And that way you don't have to create a new theme. This one's going to be a little different. And it doesn't match up with this name, but that's okay. We get the picture. And let's see, the warning, I'm going to go ahead and make this be the brand color 2. And yeah, I think that's probably about it. The last thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and update the buttons. We'll make some changes here. So let's see, on the background, let's go ahead and choose brand color 1. And let's see that hover. Let's go ahead and choose brand color 2. Yeah, I think that's probably fine. Actually, I'll go ahead and change this one too. This is where you have to make some decisions, like referencing your old theme. I actually don't have the other theme up there, the other system up and running. Most likely, when you do this in real life, you're gonna maybe do have a parallel landscape, or maybe you have both your old dev and your new dev maybe on the same virtual machine, and you just have them run on 2 different ports. Whatever the case is, you've got your other one to go look at, or you can look at the theme like I was doing here, and look at the colors that you might have spelled out. Maybe you've got actually buttons right here might have some colors defined. They're using brand color 1. I think that's why I originally went to this one, but you get the idea. You can decide which colors look best and what you need to use. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit publish. And then we're going to move on to creating our, headers and footers, for our comment elements. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and go to fragments right here. And, there are several out of the box ones, like I mentioned. Basically, like if we look at, we're considering our headers, we've got, there's 2 that are provided out of the box, and there's even some footers that do provide navigation, and then an area for the logo. We would just have to look and see, do they really make sense for our usage? Do they fit our use case? Is there probably some styling differences that we need to incorporate? If we look back at this, you can see for header 1, I've got that authenticated user on the right. I don't have a basic fragment that provides the user, but maybe I create one, and then maybe I could use that easily within a drop zone in a fragment on the page. Same thing like with the header 2. I don't really have one out of the box that's going to fit this. Maybe I would do, like I said, I could split this up. I could have a drop zone for the search bar that I could use. I maybe could abstract the fragment some, but however, and I do like using the fragment compositions and drop zones a lot of times, but I think for this, I just found it was easier just for me to go ahead because of some of the styling to just create a whole new fragment, that it was just easier, and really just moving kind of directly from that, the headers out of that portal normal free marker template. The footer, I pretty much could probably maybe use one of the out of the box ones, but then I've got the logo. Maybe the simplest case, like I've told you before, is if you join me for my fragment sessions. But I'll a lot of times will create a copy off of one of the out of the box fragments that Liferay provides, and just modify it from there. Use it as a starter point. So anyway, that's kind of the thing we have to just keep in mind, is deciding if you're going to use out of the box ones or you're going to create your own. So what I've done to kind of save time is I have actually already created these, so you don't have to watch me just kind of copy paste. Let's see, copy and paste, all the fragments in. So let's go here. I've already got this in the workspace. Hit import, and then we'll take a look at the ones I've created. So I created 2 headers and then a footer. We'll look at the footer first. So you can see basically, it's only has the navigation and that's it. I'm embedding that right here. I did label it Westeros footer. And then I actually pulled over some of my styles, from the source. Oh, some of this was in, there's a modules style or SAS file that had a lot of the classes, specifically for the Westeros, it had a lot of the classes in CSS for the different display templates, the structured pieces of web content, but then also for some of the common elements too. Well, there's a footer one and there was a header one, but I just kind of pulled some of this information from that and made reference to it. And like I said, I also leaned heavily on the some of the newer out of the box examples too. You can see I also went ahead and made reference to using one of the CSS tokens. So right now it's pulling this brand color, but then when we place this on a page, it's going to make use of what brand color 1 is assigned from our style book, which will be that kind of that teal kind of blue-green color. Let's go ahead and look at, and I don't think on any of these I really use the configuration, but you can see I've done a similar thing for making reference to for the font right here using these variables that were defined. There's spacer 2, font weight lighter, and then background color brand color 3. So you get the idea. You just have, these are the changes I had to go about making. The top header, you can see I do have a navigation menu here because that was actually an option that was that you could do with that top level nav in the Westeros theme. And then it's got my user profile right there if you're logged in user, or it will present the sign in if the user is not signed in the homepage. So now let's go ahead and I will say one more thing on this. So when I worked out crafting these headers and these common elements right here, I did this just on a plain content page. I didn't worry about trying to iron them out on the master page. I just used a plain simple content page, created it, and then just ironed out all the styling. I'm just kind of skipping that step here for the sake of time, so we can move on. But I just want to mention that was for me the easiest, and especially when you do the navigation. I'll show you that in a minute as we move next to creating the master page, but the navigation doesn't always really show up when you're using the page. It doesn't actually show up when you're using the page hierarchy. So like I said, I leaned heavily on some of the out-of-the-box ones because unless you're a Bootstrap or CSS ninja and you know exactly what those changes are, for me, it was easier just to kind of reference the out-of-the-box ones and then make the styling changes that I needed to. So anyway, let's go ahead and move on to, seeing our fragments on the master page. So I'm going to go down to page templates next. And, currently we only have the default master page titled blank. Now all the pages on our site, point to this master page and its associated style book, which was blank, basically also, because it's really using the styles from the theme. So after we create our main one master page, we could go back and we could set this as default if we wanted to. And then any new pages, actually when we create new pages, will be prompted for, if we want to use a master page when we create it. So we're going to do main one. Now this area in the middle is where, like I said, we can define, or what's going to be allowable fragments, for a content admin to use on this page. The first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and add these at our headers and footers. So I'm gonna go to the Westeros, and I'm gonna go ahead at the bottom. I'm gonna place the footer, and then I'm gonna go place the top header. And I'll place the next header right there. And then I did have a drop zone in here. I'm actually change this up a little bit so you can see it. So I'm actually going to use a widget and use the search bar. And so I have a search bar. So I did use a little bit of composition here and added a drop zone. But you can see what I was mentioning right here, that there's no page navigation showing up. And that's, like I said, because we're using the page hierarchy and we've not created any navigation menus, because those actually, like this one was from 7.0 and that wasn't really introduced until like 7.1, I think, when it was decoupled, where you could create the navigation menus. But if you remember though, like master pages are technically not really a part of the pages hierarchy, so that's why they can't be seen. I could come in here and change this through the configurations point to a navigation menu, but I don't have anything created. So it's nothing to worry about here, because when we place this on a page, it's going to work just fine. So the other thing I wanted to mention here is that just when you're looking at this, remember, this page is a visualization of that portal normal, that contained all of our common elements. In this middle portion right here, which is what will be allowed or defines what fragments or widgets can be defined, or a content admin can be placed on the pages that inherit this. This is basically represents everything that's within the main tags within that previous free marker template. So you've got these controls provide kind of some nice guardrails, but yet flexibility, because maybe, like I said, you want to if I have a certain set of maybe fragments, like Westeros fragments, that I wanted to my content admins to be able to use, I can easily do that. Actually, I have said widgets. This only allows you to define or specify the allowable fragments that a content admin can place. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is apply the style book, to this page, because this is going to be the master page, and we've crafted our styles. We're going to apply them to the master page, and then we're going to take our individual pages, and then we're going to assign those to use this master page in the next step. So let's go ahead and choose the Westeros 2, and immediately you can see that some of the styling is changed, at least for the footer right here. That part is changed. So we're going to go ahead and hit publish. And then before we leave this page, I want to show you, a couple more, just one more thing, really. Right here, you can see that there is this view usage or usages. And like I said, maybe actually this would be more clear, just to kind of show that. Let me open this in tab. If I look at my pages right now, there's no difference. This still has everything from the classic theme. So like I just kind of said mentioned a second ago, there's nothing that's been applied to this page yet. It's still using the blank master page, which is then using the blank style book that's default, and it's inheriting basically all of the styling from the classic theme. Our main one has no usages. Now I'll tell you, you might think that this count seems a little high. So if it's using content pages, if you're using it, just remember they do get reported twice. I've not talked to product to see if maybe they might modify that or maybe add a little more explanation. But the reason why content pages will get counted twice in this number is because there's two layout records, one for an edit layout and then one for the view layout. So you could actually have a content page that's in draft mode being edited. Maybe you're making some changes. Maybe it's going to change to a different master page and then what the current published version is. And so just know those are duplicated. However, for widget pages, I know that they do inherit the blank default. So maybe there's something similar that might be happening there. But anyway, that's kind of just, I'm not really sure. But I mean, that just kind of helps explain that why these numbers are high. But just know that basically that's kind of showing, how many pages basically that you're using right there, or that are using this master page. So anyway, the point is here is you can notice everything is currently using the default master page, because we've not assigned anything to use the new main one yet. So we're going to look at that next. So we want to see about applying it. So as I've mentioned before, I believe Stylebooks and Master pages are really designed first to work with content pages. A master page is, after all, like I said, it is a content page. There's not really any difference. I even mentioned like there is these viewport settings earlier, like you can make those styling changes. So maybe there's certain ones in here where maybe you don't want a common fragment to show, or you need to adjust the header, the footer to look a little different, maybe set some more padding or margins or something, when it's in a mobile view versus on the desktop. You've got that flexibility here. But there's just it is essentially a content page. Also, a style book is intuitively can be applied to a content page, and then of course, the style books can be leveraged via the fragment configurations, on the fragment configuration tab. And then plus a content page can contain both fragments and widgets. So if we've got widget pages, we're only allowed to just put widgets on there. We can't use fragments. You have to go convert those. There's just a nice natural flow that, when you're using the content pages, and that they work with the style books and master pages. But like I said, shortly we are going to discuss how, you can, and I showed you that diagram at the very beginning in that slide, you can use the, style books and master pages on a widget page also. But for now, I want us to just see about like, hey, what would it take because I've had this question before with customers. How can we, do we have to build them out new? How can we convert those? What is the step? So let's look at, kind of converting two of our widget pages over to content pages, and, kind of look at how everything works there. So it's really a simple process Liferay makes for you. You can convert them one at a time. If you just will click on the page, the little configuration, little 3-dot icon, and I can say convert to page, to content page, and then it's going to give me a preview. And basically, essentially, if I look at what this has done, it's going to be the exact same layout, which in this example, there's not really much because it's the way, the styling's all off from those display templates and stuff. But you can see everything's still basically on the page. It's just done a conversion for us. Some things might need to be laid out a little differently. Maybe maybe I add another grid on here. If I need to move something, make a 3070 type layout, I could do that. Or I might have done that, chosen to do that as another master page, and it's just a slight variation. But anyway, let's go ahead and apply the master page to this. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to say just click main one. And immediately now at the bottom, now we'll say, this is just ignore the double headers and double footers. This still shows the classic, and then you can see it's got the new ones right here, and it's got a little bit double. But if I hit refresh right here, that other one will go away, the classic will. So now you just have what the new one that's presented. It's just kind of a little UI quirk for a second that it has. But you can see we've got a content page now. Everything kind of looks, for the most part, good. We're still gonna have to do some cleanup later. Let's go ahead and hit publish. And we're going to convert one more real quickly. Again, I get the preview. We'll go here, we'll click the main one. There's the double headers and footers again, but that's not a problem. And then let's go ahead and just view it. And you can see, hey, we've got our, header up here, our first level header. We've got, our second header, basically. All that looks pretty nice. Like I said, Still needs some love done on the web content. Let's go try this page. Yeah, I mean, it's starting to look a little bit more like what that, original Westeros theme was. But if I go back over here, if I had all of these other pages, and I wanted to go ahead and convert all of them, you can create a Groovy script, and then just loop through and convert all of those pages if you wanted to. Or you can just do them, individually. It's just kind of up to you. All right, so again, let's move on to kind of clean up that structured web content. Now that we've got the basic look of the, look and feel of the page is basically done. So I'm going to go over here to web content. I'm going to go to my templates. And, remember there were a lot of changes from Bootstrap with Bootstrap and also the plain lexicon when moving from 7.0 to 7.4. It was Bootstrap, I think, changed from 3 to 4. So a lot of changes. Some of the changes specifically were, these outdated or older CSS classes. A lot of them were removed, or they just got renamed. Like this one, I know this container fluid 1280 is actually, I think it's fluid max XL now or something. And then the way you do even like offsets, changed from like call COL-MD-offset-3 to it was now like just offset-MD-3, for example. But anyway, so I actually, again, to kind of save time, I've already kind of done the conversion just so we can just move on and see how that would work. So I've got them right here. I'm gonna go ahead and close that. Now, I did make use, when I was making these changes, I did make use of the old theme styles to know, hey, how did I set my colors? What were the links? What colors should they be using? Maybe the fonts. I wanted to make use of the variables, so I had to go look at the old theme as I was updating these. So I'm going to close those right now. Just have a bit more space. And this is the icon, so I will copy this. And that is icons. Paste that. So, and let's see what's the next one. I don't know. Just a second. And if on that other one, you could see also where I actually went ahead and used like the CSS variable, one of them for like background. Let's see about this. I don't really think that. Yeah, you can see that offset, that one, a no change. Again, if you're really like a CSS ninja, you're really Bootstrap is like your second language. You probably you already know the changes and it'd be easier for you. But I had to make use of some of the out of the box ones just to reference. What is that? That was column with that image. Video preview. And so I'm using brand color 2 there. And that one. All right, okay. So let's go take a look at our page now and see what it looks like. Okay. This is that slider, so or carousel. So that one obviously still needs some love, but you can see that our other web content now looks a lot nicer. There's our icon links. We're starting to get there. Is the point. Yeah, there's our video preview. There's one more thing. So on the icon links right here, this is another thing you might face too. And if I go over to the structures, the icon links, because especially if you're using maybe some of the clay icons, which this one I think is making use of, these also change. So I just need to change these field references on all of these real quickly. Now, I'll tell you, I mean, I'm sure you all know this, but like making structure changes is something you typically have to be really careful doing, but this is okay because you don't want to lose any data. Always make sure you got a backup of things. But in this situation, you're doing an upgrade, you've got a backup schema. And you'll do this rehearsal several times before you actually have your go live again. So let's look at this now and see how that looks. Yep, there's our icons back. Okay, so that looks a lot better. Like I said, the if we go the carousel slider definitely needs some help, but you know, I might want to use one of the out of the box sliders. I may not want to you know, out of the box fragments. I may not want to, you know, create it one exactly like we had. You know, I've got that flexibility. Another thing I could do is on this page, now that we have a master page, let me edit this. I really don't need this guy anymore here. We actually don't need him, so I'm actually going to move him. I'm going to go place him on the master page. We'll publish this. Let's go back over here. Let me go to design templates, page templates. Let's go to the main one. Let's add that structured content. Again, we could you know, change him to maybe be a fragment, but I'm fine just using it. I've got that, you know, I can select a piece of structured content that we've already created, and I can just make use of that. So if I do this, now we've got that fragment. Okay, now there's one thing on here. There is this gap that's right between here. Watch this. I can come over here and go to advanced, and then I'm going to copy and put in a little bit of custom code or CSS and get rid of that gap that we have. I'm going to publish that master. And then let's refresh. Yes. So now we've got our footers looking much more like what our old Lestros theme did. And we've got the headers are all looking good. Okay, we can even, let's look at responsive view. Let's go to mobile. Yeah, there we go. That's looking a lot nicer. Looks pretty good. Yep, it looks pretty good. And even the content kind of basically looks pretty much like what it should also. Okay, so yeah, that's looking really nice. Okay. So the next thing let's do is talk about using style books and master pages on a widget page. Okay, so until now, like I said, you know, we've been looking at using them on content pages. So let's kind of shift gears because I've still got a lot of other pages out here, and maybe I don't want to convert those right now. Maybe I'll do it later. I just don't have a need. You know, we're trying to meet a deadline maybe, or it's just, you know, a lot of times, you know, you got just so many number of heads to do so many different tasks, you know, as part of an upgrade initiative kind of thing. So something we might circle back and promote them. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and go to another page. This one is a widget page, and I'm going to go ahead and click the configuration icon right here. And I'm going to go down to the design. And you can see that I've got this theme section right here, you know, which allows me to alter the current page theme. You know, this is kind of pretty standard. You know, I can change that. And then I've also got this basic settings section right here, which allows me to set a master page and, you know, a style book. You can see right now it's using just the blank, right? And then styles for theme, right? And then we have this customization section where I can, you know, specify CSS and JavaScript. You know, I can do it either through a client extension, right here, or I can also embed JavaScript and CSS, you know, like I used to, like I've always been able to do kind of like on a widget page. So let's go ahead and go back up here to the basic settings. And, like I said, we've already got the style book set on our main and master page. So really, we just want to change it to main one. So as soon as I do that, notice what happens. We no longer have the theme section. We only have this basic setting. And then our style book still says styles from theme, but really it's pulling it from that from the style book from the main one master is going to be applied. So let's go ahead and save this in view. And I'm going to go ahead and go right here. And you can see we've got our header and footer now, like what we have on our content page. Our web content looks a little different. You can see kind of looks like probably we need to set it to bare bone for the the Portland application decorators. They look like, I think they're just on like I forgot what the name is, but the one that still kind of shows a kind of the items row, the name of it. But we've got probably to change this. We can remove the icon links, definitely one of these. The other one, we might have to do a little bit of styling too, because that is a web content that's, on the master page. We've got this gap. So there's still definitely a little bit of styling that might need to be applied here. But we'd have to work out, but it's not really too big of a deal, and at the end of the day, honestly, it might be easier. I think it's a lot of times just very beneficial. I don't really know of any reasons why you couldn't just go ahead and just convert it, but maybe you have, like I said, maybe you just got a number of pages and you're not really ready to do that yet. We might do it later. Again, like I said, some things you have to consider is if you're on a widget page, no fragments. The look and feel settings of widgets, they do not, allow you to, or a content admin, to easily make some of the styling changes, from tokens. These, I don't remember actually where these come from, but this is not definitely, from my style book, right? So it's going to be a little bit more, it might be an onus on the Liferay admin to make some of these changes, versus, where you're able to enable your content or business users kind of, on the content pages, versus if you stay with this. Like I said, there just seems to be like really a natural flow when you're using the content pages approach. All right, well, that's honestly, I think that's about it for today. It's starting to get close on time, and I want to make sure we answer questions. The last thing we could do is, like I said, we could add the fonts for Westeros. However, I'm going to cover that in a third session. I've still got that third session in draft, so it will probably be after the first of the year before we do that. But we'll wrap up our approach for upgrading our theme by looking at the JavaScript and CSS client extensions to include those fonts also. And then we're going to cover some additional items. But I hope you can just get a good idea of how easy it is to kind of maybe move away from migrating your theme. Hopefully that maybe cuts down on some of your upgraded planning, and you can maybe benefit from what I feel like is really a lot more flexible approach to make styling changes more quickly, by using the style books and master pages, and ultimately also, like I said, a feature we're going to look at later, by using the front-end client extensions. So with that said, does anyone have any questions? I'm going to go ahead and pull up look at the Q&A box, and then feel free to raise your hand if you want to ask one, and I'll click on your name. Let's see, let me look at the box right now. So I see, can we add our own tokens if needed? Example, tertiary colors. Yes. So like I said, there's two ways you can do that, Kelly. One way would be, right now, currently is the only way currently you can do that is you could go and create your own theme. I showed in the session last week where you could do basically make a there's the Yeoman generator for the theme generator will allow you to make quickly create a copy of the classic theme, and then you can extend that JSON token file. That's the current way. However, I don't want to give you a deadline, but a date, but project has a new feature coming out where you'll be able to extend those tokens without creating your own theme. It'll be something can be done within the UI. But I don't know if I don't think it's not gonna be in Q4 this next quarterly release. I don't know if it's gonna make it in the Q1 for next year. I'm not sure. But like I said, it's gonna be a nice feature because then you basically really don't need the themes at all, because everything that a theme used to provide you is now abstracted through configuration somewhere else. Let's see, the next question I have down here. Is how does master pages work with staging? That's a good question. I don't have personal experience using master pages with staging, but however, they should be supported if the functionality is there where you can create them in staging. When you're in the staging environment, you can do that. Now, I will tell you this though. For all intensive reasons, we're really trying to guide and push people away from staging and to use publications in place of that. There has been a webinar that Andrew Jardine, my colleague, did on the benefits of publications over staging. And I would really recommend you maybe reach out to your CSM and ask them if you can get a copy of that, and we can get you that webinar because it's really insightful. The only gap that staging has that publications doesn't have right now currently is the ability to do remote publications. That ability is not there yet, but it's something that product is working on. Essentially, staging is becoming like maintenance mode for the most part. Next question I see in the box is, would you point to the sample of Groovy script to convert pages to content? I'll try to find it. I know our GS consulting has that, but I don't think it's probably something really hard to do. I think it's something you could just, I'll see if it's something from support, maybe even they have it and they'll provide. And then what I'll do is actually on the meetup reply email, I'll tell you instructions on how to get that. I might just have you reach out to your CSM. Actually, I'll tell you to go ahead and reach out to your CSM and then let them get in contact with me. I'll try to find it for you though. I don't think it's really that complicated. I'm sure there's probably just a method on the layout to do, if it's a content page, to do a convert or something, but I've just not looked at it myself. Let's see, how to create alerts in a master page. This is from an anonymous. I would probably say you could do that two different ways in the context. There is the alerts widget that you could use, and you can place those widgets on a master page. And then the other thing would be maybe you're wanted within a fragment, and maybe the fragment pulls from a web service, the REST API. Maybe you use objects to have to create the alerts or something. But it is definitely possible. Whatever basically essentially you can do on a content page, you can do that in a master page. And then Nate asks, can you limit the widgets that are able to be placed on a content page? Yes. So actually, like I have said, that I'm going to ask product if that's something they're looking at, because right now, Nate, it looks like that you can only limit the fragments, but they don't allow any limiting the widgets. So I've been meaning to ask that when I kind of started looking at that a little bit closer, because that seems to be just a natural question, and maybe it's something that's a feature enhancement they just haven't gotten around to yet. Next one I've got, and then we'll get to the hands, is in theme. We can call Liferay services via service locator and call the Java methods, and also do custom logic. But how can we do that with Stylebooks? We can call, yeah, okay. So what you could do is, it's really kind of the context of your fragments. I mean, in a theme, you're using a free marker template, right? That you would end up either using like the service locator. So in fragments, you have a free marker context available for you. I've never used the service locator with it, but I mean, I think if you look at the Learn docs, with fragments and the free marker context, you'll see how to do that. And then, there's also, like I said, there is a service a web service call that you can make to, which might actually get you what you want without even having to use the service locator. I tend to I use a service locator, but there can be times where maybe opening that up too much can create some performance issues. We've seen that especially with display templates and everything. All right, so next question. Yeah. So any source code management model that comes with this, how do we manage configuration drift between, let's say, a development environment, staging, and production environment? So yeah, what I would recommend doing is, Brian, you can actually export the master page and also the style books to a JSON file, and that would then check that in a part of your workspace. And then that same export you can also use as a migration artifact through your landscape. You can't deploy it through the deployment, through the deploy folder. You can import it in via the control, via the interface here. And this is not using the old, like the LAR format. This is just a JSON. It's a zip file. It's got a manifest, JSON manifest, and then the JSON file with whatever the configuration is. But yeah, I definitely would recommend just kind of exporting those zip files out so that you know exactly, like, hey, this is what's supposed to be in there. Further than that, there is site initializers, but unfortunately, site initializers only are really helpful for the creation of a new site, but not really like for the maintenance. So that's kind of a little bit different. But I would just export that and put that into your Liferay workspace and check it into your source code repository. Can we create a template by combining both widget pages and content pages? So this is an anonymous person asked the question, can we create a template by combining both widget page and content page? I'm not sure I understand. You can create, as a template, I don't know, maybe if whoever's anonymous, if they want to maybe elaborate some, then maybe I might be able to answer that. Another anonymous says, I would like to see an example more focused in responsiveness tricks, things that only are displayed in mobile, or elements that are in different order or alignment between desktop and mobile. Is it better to have 2 fragments for, say, the header, or just have one to do the magic to work, to make it work for both desktop and mobile? It's kind of open up to you, right? Like, depending on how comprehensive or complex your header is, or maybe your footer, or whatever the fragments are, you can do either. Now, like I said, I could, for example, on this main master, I could, let's say, this header footing right here, styles, I could set the margin, let's say, to something like 3, but then I can come over here to the to the mobile view, and it's going to default to what I set it in the desktop, but maybe I want to change this to really be like 9. Okay. And then I can come back over to the desktop view. It's still set at 3. My mobile is set to 9. If I also want to have the landscape mobile be set to, let's set it to 4.5. These all can be, that one's 3, that one's 4.5, and this one is 9. They can all be completely separate. I can also, for example, maybe if I had another fragment on here, but you can also hide the fragment. So maybe in the mobile view, I'll just do that real quickly. It kind of still shows it up there, but it's not really there. I can have that completely also be distinct And so that's really nice because, you know, before you'd have to make a lot of CSS rules. And now this is something really the business user or content admin or Liferay admin can do within the UI. They can make those styling changes a lot quicker than what they previously used to do. So I hope that gives you an idea. The person was anonymous that asked this question, but it you really kind of depends upon your design. But I hope that gives you an example really of what you can do there. Okay, I think that's all the, oh, hang on, one more in the Q&A box, and then we'll go to whoever wants to talk. What is your suggestion for reusing master pages, fragments, style books for multiple sites and multi-instance Liferay setup? Okay, so that's a really good question. And I'll tell you what the new feature is I was even hinting at that's going to allow you to also extend the tokens without having to update the theme. There's a new feature that's going to be called design packs or design libraries. Basically, it's like an asset library, except it's for anything that's like the front end. That way you don't have to put things in the global. There's a lot of issues or can be some issues with using the global. In fact, Dave Nebinger, who's one of the, I'm sure many of you guys have read Dave's blogs, he wrote one recently on why you can kind of should probably stay away from global. But the design packs is going to allow you to kind of do that and share that style books and master pages, anything that's kind of UI related between those sites a lot easier. However, when you're talking about like via, so that would be in a multi-site situation. And multiple instances, like I'm thinking like, you know, multiple companies, you know, within Liferay, then you probably were going to have to end up, I don't think the design packs would share across those. You'll probably have to just re-import those, you know, exported files over to that other company or other instance. Now, and so to say that even through your landscape, you know, it's like I said earlier, I would just use the import export to kind of keep things kind of in sync or keep them up, you know, use it kind of as a migration artifact. So I hope that answers your question. So I've got time still. I know we've definitely gone over some, but I will, if anyone wants to ask a question verbally, I'm free to, you know, stay and answer the question. I saw some hands up earlier. I don't know if we've answered all the questions. If anyone does want to ask a question that I've not answered, just yeah, raise your hand. I'll click on you to allow you to talk. I don't see any hands raised. So with that, guys, I want to thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. Don't forget, next week we do actually have, and so we're going to be a little bit different. There's a session on proxy objects. So that is a beta feature. It's a feature that's really exciting to learn about, but it is one that is still in the oven, but it's something that's got a lot of us excited about, and the way it's going to allow you to aggregate data into Liferay more easily. So definitely, you know, check out that next session next week, if you would. Like I said, we will send out the video link after in an email afterwards, and we will also be posting the video course on YouTube too. But with that said, you guys have a great day. Thank you again for joining us.
Thanks. Have a good one.